racist, Internet!
Chapter 3.
Woo!
Dragon Hatchery. We're gonna kind of... This one's gonna be a little less in-depth than the other ones, just because it's a dungeon, and there's a lot of... I mean, it would be tedious to just go through room by room about what's gonna happen, so we're just gonna kind of go over the general, what's supposed to happen, and then what our outcome was, and what we would change, and things we liked and didn't like about it. So, what's happening at the hatchery?
Alright, so, to begin this chapter, this is, again, right after you rescued Leo from the place, and you take him back to the Greenest.
Right.
At the Greenest, you meet one of the leaders of the Order of the Gauntlet, Onthar Froom, who's a paladin, and sorry, Order of the Gauntlet. And... like, you convey all your information, everything you got, to Governor Nighthill and Onthar.
Mm-hmm.
And he asks you to go back. Like, hey, could you go back? You said there was something about a dragon hatchery. We want to see what they're doing in there. Are they hatching dragon eggs? That's, like, could be a huge problem. Can you go back? And if... I mean, I think they... If the characters are currently unemployed, he offers them 150 gold apiece. Which I don't know at what point you would get a job in this whole thing, but yeah, if you didn't...
I think if you possibly... I think there is jobs, like if you're a performer, that's like a job. Like you could do as far as your background is concerned, or if you're a guild, you have the guild artisan background, you technically have a job. So there's ways.
So don't have a job.
It's just
you get more gold.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's it. That's like the whole...
you satiate Governor Nighthill by telling him it was just a random attack. The Greenest wasn't picked out. They're not going to come back.
Yeah.
Leo's there. You give him the information from whoever the person asked you to find him. And now Onthar is sending you to go check out the hatchery.
You have found out at this point about Rezimir, who is a black half-dragon, and she's one of the higher-ups in the Cult of the Dragon. You don't know what, you don't know how, but she's been the boss of everything so far.
Right.
So, you go back to the camp, you know where it is, and it's pretty much abandoned.
There's no encounters on the way there.
No encounters on the way there. There are a couple of scouts. The scout is like the NPC, like enemy class, like the build.
Like bandit or something like that.
So there are a couple of scouts, and they act as hunters. They hunt and bring meat to the camp. Yeah,
they basically, what they tell you basically is, we're just paid to go get food and bring it to the cave entrance. People take it inside, and that's it. We don't ask any questions, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So, in our situation, I, being the hunter-type person of the group, I endeared myself to them by going and hunting and bringing stuff back. So that let us get closer to kind of get a peek inside, see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we kind of got involved with that group.
Yeah, so, and then you get into the cave.
Yeah, one way or another, you find your way into the cave, and then why don't we just talk, the beginning stuff I don't think we really need to talk about. They gave you everything you needed, and I don't think there's anything we really changed for that. That made sense.
That was pretty on board. Well, one of the other things that they say is that there is a definite direction. Like, you can tell where the camp went. Like, there were wagons and hundreds of people walking all in the same direction, so you can tell where they went. So the reason we had to retcon our campaign and start from the beginning of episode 2 again is because at this point, after... the first wave of episode 2, where they got attacked by everyone within a 300-foot radius, because I said so, and they had to run away, and they didn't rescue anyone, is they got back here, saw that the tracks led away, and were just like, alright, let's follow the tracks. Which, I was going by the milestone leveling system, so they didn't succeed in episode 2, and at this point, they were bypassing episode 3, so they would have been starting episode 4 at level 2.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's how you ruin a whole campaign. So
yeah, he walked away from the table in a fluster.
I was, yes, in a fluster. Alright, so yeah, then you go into the cave. It's a cave. There's a lot of enemies, some weird enemies that you haven't seen before.
13 rooms?
Yes, 13 rooms.
13 different rooms in the cave. So, I guess, you kind of talked about what happened with our last campaign.
Yeah.
So why don't we just kind of very high level talk about anything major. I mean, you're going to walk through this cave. There's a bunch of people in here.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just talk about anything kind of key pieces that you come across.
One of the things is this is going to be your first encounter with traps.
Yeah.
But the traps in this are weird.
Yeah. I didn't like it.
You know, like some of them don't have saves,
which doesn't make sense to me.
At one point, I'll give you an example. There's a spike trap between two of the rooms. You can spot it with a 15 Wisdom Perception check, or it is noticed by anyone who's like tapping the floor in front of them, like a blind person would.
Why would you at this point?
I don't know. And then, all right. So you roll a d10 between these two areas if you haven't spotted the trap. On a roll of 1 or 2, your foot goes through the floor and you land on spikes. You take a d4 of piercing damage, and then you have to take a Constitution save against poison. There's no reflex save for not falling in the pit, and that was a surprise to the players.
Yes. The other part of it is like there are certain classes, like a barbarian, that gets advantage on dex saves versus traps. That's a whole mechanic for that character that just doesn't come into play because the trap just works.
Yep.
I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. I feel like it's a little weird.
Yep. There is another trap.
Beef curtains.
The beef curtains, where it's curtains and there are little spikes with poison on them. So as soon as you touch the curtains, you get poison spikes.
Yeah, whether or not. So like, you would have to use there's a rotted old spear that you're supposed to use to push the curtains to the side to walk through. But yeah, if you touch them, you automatically get poison, which was kind of weird.
Yep.
One thing that was interesting is there was one room that there's just like a drunk guy that's just passed out drunk. And he serves no purpose.
I'm trying to find him. Yeah.
His whole purpose is to be like, you're in a cave complex where there's a bunch of people, and there's just a drunk dude, just there being drunk. He serves no purpose. But, being the fact that everything in this game thus far has served a purpose one way or another, we walked into this room, and we're convinced that this guy had to be useful or something, know some information. So, we spent a bunch of time trying to like wake this guy up, make him not drunk anymore so we could interrogate him. And he didn't know anything.
This is if you have the book, it is in room 13, the treasure storage room, which is now empty because the Hoard has moved on. Or not empty, but for all intents and purposes. There is one cultist who is sleeping soundly on the floor after consuming several bottles of wine. He won't wake up from anything less than vigorous shaking, and it will take several hours before he is coherent. That was the drunk guy.
Yeah, and needless to say, I mean, I guess we can... So the way you're supposed to go through this, we'll come back to him, is systematically basically go room by room.
Yep.
There's a room where there's like a drake pens, where there's a bunch of drakes that are being, held up ready to help them out. There's the actual hatchery room, which comes later. There's a couple more trapped rooms. There's a barracks for kobolds. There's a whole bunch of different things. I don't think I missed anything. There's the fungus place.
Yeah, there's a violet fungi. There is Lestridosa Cyanrath is in here.
Yes.
So you gotta fight him, and I think
Yeah, full room
Mondath.
She's here towards the end, but
yeah.
let's explain what happened with our game, and then we'll talk about, because we can't really speak to how it's supposed to go.
No.
Because essentially you work your way through, you find you fight off the drakes, maybe you keep them trapped in the cages, you fight the kobolds, and eventually you make your way to like the final chamber where there's a chamber before a chamber with a chest in it.
That was, I think, Fulrum's room.
No, not her room. The room that had the chest that had the poison.
Oh, the room that had the chest that had the poison.
Yeah, it was right before her area.
The guard barracks? I don't remember. Treasure. What am I looking for?
The room.
The acid, right?
Yeah, with the poison cloud or whatever.
Poison cloud acid thing. Poison cloud acid thing. Acid trap. There it is. Yeah. In the dragon shrine.
Yeah, that's right. So
yeah.
So this is right before you fight essentially the final boss.
Yeah.
So there's a room with a chest in it that's trapped, and unless you have the key to open it, the trap will go off.
Yep.
And there's some useful stuff in there. So, and then the next room over, which waiting to hear whether or not the trap goes off, essentially is full room Mondath and her contingency of kobolds.
Well, no, that was in our version.
Oh.
Our version has nothing to do with what actually happened in the book. Sorry.
Well, speak up here.
Well, alright, so I'm going to have to explain
Yeah.
what happened. Alright, so in our version, the treasure room is like is right off the first hallway, and it's kind of concealed. They passed the perception check, they found the concealed hallway, they went there. So they started kind of at the back. The way it's set up in the book is each room is numbered. So this was the last room, this was room number 13. So they went in there, they're trying to talk to the dude who's drunk, and it's not working. So our champion from episode 1, the fighter, decided to rip his arms out of their sockets.
Now, granted, this is not a thing that is normally allowed in D&D, but he was so adamant about it and stupid about it.
I rolled with it. I let it happen.
Yeah.
So then, of course, piercing scream from getting your arms ripped off, and which alerted everyone in
The cave.
It's
a cave.
It's a cave. Things
so
echo.
Sound echoes, yeah.
So at that point, you had some magic acorns that gave you luminescent. So they take refuge in a tiny hut, a magic tiny hut. So no one can attack them while they're like, what the heck? So I divided up every enemy in the cave and put half of them guarding the front door and half of them guarding the dragon eggs.
Yeah.
So that was why she was in that room, is because she was protecting the eggs.
She would normally be in her chamber.
She would normally be. I haven't found her yet. She's somewhere.
Okay.
I'm looking back.
Needless to say, we managed to defeat those people because our fighter somehow thought that the guy would instantly die, I guess.
I guess.
Rather than scream bloody murder for having his arms ripped out of their sockets.
Which
I
sucks.
don't know. So then we attempted to leave, and Cyan Wrath was waiting and blasted our fighter champion with lightning breath again and took him down to 0.
Yeah.
And then we managed to make quick work of Cyan Wrath now having level 2 abilities, or level 3 abilities.
She's either in her room or in the guard barracks. They give you contingencies for each.
So she ran to the dragon hatchery to protect the eggs because now everybody knows we're there.
Yeah.
So obviously it went pretty easy for us because we took out most of the people in that one spot right away and were able to just kind of walk through the rest of the area. Till we got to the room with the acid trap.
Yes.
So why don't you? We talk about what happened there.
So the acid trap went off, and there was I think it does 2d10 poison damage, and it's like a mist in the air. In the next room, which is the dragon hatchery, I had all of the kobolds and fulcrum monodeath and a couple other things from this whole area waiting. And she starts off, she uses magic, so she was going to use Hold Person, which paralyzes you. And if you're paralyzed, every hit on you is an automatic critical.
Yep.
And even though kobolds aren't bad, if you get hit with 30 slings all doing criticals, it's going to be pretty gnarly. There's also winged kobolds who drop rocks from the sky, and they do, like, I think a d10 or something. So that was about to happen, but they got this acid cloud in the way. So our cleric used Gust of Wind.
Yep.
It blows away things. So I was like, all right, cool. And he said, can I direct the Gust of Wind into the room that we haven't been in yet, which is the Dragon Hatchery where everyone's waiting? And I said, yeah, cool. So he did. And then I rolled for damage for the acid for everyone in that room, and it killed every single kobold in there.
Yeah, all the kobolds died.
So it went from being like 15 kobolds, 2 winged kobolds, 3 guard drakes, and fulcrum monodeath, to being 2 guard drakes who had taken 10 damage and this kind of grouchy magic lady.
Yeah, so we managed to take everything from the chest. We walked into the room. She tried to hit me and the fighter with Whole Person. We both passed the saves, which blew one of her higher level, like her only...
I think it was her highest level
spell, because she cast it out of a 2nd level to hit 2 people, I think. And then we just made quick work of... Actually, we killed the drakes and we knocked her out and captured her.
Yep.
We actually, I think there was like a roper or something.
There's a roper at one point. Things that you're going to need in case you don't have, let's say, the monster manual, things you'll need the specs for are kobolds, winged kobolds, troglodytes, berserkers, roper, and sturges, I think, and violet fungi.
Yeah, the roper is pretty beastly. Like, you don't want to fight it.
Yes, but it gives you a way out of it. Roper will, it could decimate your entire party. But all you got to do is actually it says it right here when it says Roper. This is very dangerous to 3rd level characters. So either bribe it with food or walk around it.
Yeah, so we had obviously a room full of dead kobolds that we just left to it. And we, like, the dragon eggs are hidden. I think there's 3.
Yep.
And we managed to take all 3, found all 3.
And then you get bonus experience for destroying or taking all of the dragon eggs. You get bonus experience for every trap you disarm. And then you get the experience you would get from killing the Roper if you bribe it with food instead.
Yeah.
I think that's it. All the bonus experience things.
So that is Chapter 3.
Oh,
So that was pretty quick, so we'll move on to Chapter 4,
Chapter
which
4.
is what?
Chapter 4 is On the Road again!
This is where we take the long travel
Yes.
north. So we'll start back in just a sec.